Hey everybody, how's it going? Good, my mic's on. I always check now because I've had that problem so many times. Yeah, tonight we are making a mold using really basic stuff. Oh, I forgot my apron. Hold on, I need to wear my apron for this. It's very important. It's my fancy Heidi, Atelier Heidi apron. So I thought this would be a good opportunity to make sure it gets worn. Ah, hey everybody. A lot of familiar faces here tonight. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this. This is pretty basic. This is simple as mold making gets. I don't do a lot of this kind of thing, but I at least have done this enough times to have a general sense of how it should go. This is about on the level of what I can do with molds, which is really simple stuff, but it is pretty easy when you're working with something that's really small like this. Yes, it is actually Legos. Hi, Chiefy Creates! Welcome, friend! Everybody else? Alright. So, before we get started, to catch up, this is Monster Clay. This is a sculpt that I've been working on for the last couple of streams. It's ready now, so I'm ready to go ahead and mold it. For the mold supplies that we're using, this is Moldstar 16 Fast. It's pretty cheap, it's really easy to use, and it's just one of the more basic smooth-on products. So we are also using actual Legos, and the purpose of these is to build a little wall that goes all the way around. These are great because they are solid enough to stop the silicone and you can reuse them infinitely. And they don't even really get dirty unless you're getting nasty clay on them when you're doing like a two-part mold. But they're really great for when you're making like small, shallow molds, especially when the walls don't have to be very high. Oh, I'm gonna bring that in. And you can build them in whatever weird shapes you need. Like, I'm basically going to create a little perimeter and then leave a little bit of space all the way around, but it doesn't have to be like a specific difference. It doesn't have to be real distance. It does not have to be super precise. And anyway, my first order of business is just to get all of these Legos down. I also have my hot glue gun. I was running around the house trying to find this right before starting this stream because I didn't. I'm gonna take this off. My head is too warm. Oh. Oh, sorry. Anyway, yeah, Legos are super convenient for making really small stuff. So that is what we were doing. I'm only planning on making the mold tonight. Well, we'll see how things go. Okay, this is on, and that's heating up. Oh yeah, there's a tiny bit of silicone on this. Right there on my thumb. Actually, for a second it like focused on it. Anyway, I finished sculpting this like just barely earlier today. So hopefully it'll all come out well and be up to quality when it's finished. I added back in those surface details that were not present before and tried to kind of refine the shapes. It was a huge pain in the ass though, and it kind of got to the point where it was like, okay, you know, my sculpt is only going to be so good because I'm not a highly experienced sculptor. And it was kind of like, I had already spent so many days on it, like, I had to ask myself, what is the real priority here, getting it finished or making it, like, absolutely perfect? And the priority is getting it done because, I just needed the practice anyway, for making this kind of thing. And for the method that I chose, it's probably impossible for me to make it better than this without like just spending way too long on it. And so, you know, sometimes you just decide to move on. Hello, Tamakao90. Anyway, I'm going to get this perimeter made and then hot glue it down to the board. This is one of the convenient parts of sculpting on these little fiber boards, is that they, you want a surface that's totally flat for your mold, and something that's easy to pick up and move around like this just makes it really convenient. So if you don't want to use Legos for this, if you don't already have some laying around handy. Oh, these are my actual Legos from when I was a kid. Like, these are the same Legos I played with as a child. My mom was moving and like cleaned out a bunch of stuff and offered me a chance to come and pick up a bunch of crap for the house, from her house. And I left behind like so many of my treasured keepsakes and things that had any sort of like value, and instead I was just like, yes, Legos, I need these for mold making purposes. Anyway, there we go. I've got a framework now. This is only 2 Legos deep so far, but I'm going to glue it down before I go any farther. This is just hot glue. It'll be easy to remove later, which is the point. And so, I believe this is heated up. Let's see how that goes, and I hopefully won't damage my sculpt in the process of this. Oh, it's still coming out really slow. It might need a little bit more heating time. Maybe not. So this is to hold the Legos down to the board, and also to kind of seal it right around the edge. There we go. Now it's coming out a lot faster. Oh, I forgot to put my phone on silent. Oh, I can see a hair. There's always cat hair on my stuff. Alright, that's pretty thorough, I would say. I'm gonna go ahead and turn that off for now. Should be done with that. Aries. Is anyone sponsoring me for this particular cosplay, or am I making it because I want to? I am making it because I want to. I generally don't get, well, I guess that depends. Usually if I do like some sort of sponsored deal, it's because someone sent me a costume that's already made, or because I'm paid to make it for an event. Where I would be like finishing a costume and showing up as that character. This is not either of those things. This is just me wanting to be Arwen and making an Arwen costume. Aries is not around right now, unfortunately. He's somewhere downstairs, probably begging for attention from Jared. I'm adding one more layer of bricks to this, which should be plenty. It does not need to be very tall because the sculpt is not very tall. It just needs to be tall enough to have a good amount of clearance over whatever item you sculpted. Divinicator is what am I doing to those poor Legos? They're right now hot glued down to a piece of fiber board. They are serving as mold walls, but don't worry, they are still perfectly functional and intact, even if they get a little bit dirty in the process. Cool, well that's all I needed from these. Yeah, I've been reusing these same ones, and like I said, they're from my childhood. Like, if you look closely at them, they're kind of dirty. They've got like teeth marks on them, and I honestly don't know if it was like an animal that we owned at some point or if it was from my sister and I. Because you know when they get stuck together and you like try to yank them off? I don't know, we were children. Anyway. Those can set aside for now. Now this hot glue is nice and solid. I also sprayed this with a glossy clear coat just to kind of make molding it easier. And I also need to spray it with some mold release. So I'm gonna do that. Yeah, that was low temp glue, so it's not gonna damage them or anything. I'm gonna step aside really quickly and hit this with some mold release. It does not require very much. I just don't wanna spray it right under my camera and all this other crap. So give me a second. All it takes is like the tiniest amount of mold release. And that should be good to go. So now basically what we've created is a little dish that is these walls that are going to hold in the liquid rubber as we pour it in. And everything else is ready. It might leak a little bit through like the edges of these Legos because it's not like perfectly sealed, but I've never had it like run. If anything, the mold will just be like kind of weird looking when I pull it out. We'll see. What is mold release? Yeah, I guess it is probably some kind of lubricant or something along those lines. But basically it just prevents the silicone from, I guess, gripping whatever the item is like too hard. It'll still like capture all the detail and kind of flow into the little crevices and things like that, I hope. But the mold release will prevent it from like getting stuck in there. Which this is also just clay, so this would be, I would be able to dig it out if I had to, but for other types of items, mold release is a little bit more important. I'm gonna tie my hair back. It's like Pam for your frying pan. Yeah, sort of. It's non-stick stuff, so yeah. And I'm gonna put my phone on silent because I didn't do that earlier. Okay, it's one of my friends. Just tweet at me. Alright. I've got some gloves. This is not like dangerous to work with. At least this stuff isn't. In general, when you're casting, you want to use, or just like be in a pretty well ventilated area, but this is non-toxic, I'm pretty sure. You can touch it and it's not gonna like mess you up, but it's still a good idea to, I just like to protect my fingers and my hands because it's like sticky and kind of gross. Okay, so this is Moldstar 16 Fast. It's called Fast because that refers to the cure time. So I'm pretty sure this is like 20 or 30 minutes, it'll be ready. I don't know if I'm gonna, well yeah, I mean I guess this is hardly taking me any time. I started 15 minutes ago and I'm like ready to pour this stuff. Anyway, it comes in two parts. You measure equal parts by volume, I believe. Yeah, this one's by weight or volume, so I guess they're equal. I like to just take a little X-Acto knife and cut a stupid little pour spout, and then also another hole to allow for airflow. Here we go. This is what I'm looking for. And some paper towels just in case. I hardly ever cast anything. If I do cast something, it's usually really small stuff like this. I have made some slightly more advanced, like I've made 2-part molds, I made brushed on molds, usually really basic stuff, but basic stuff is easy. It's easy enough for me, so I can do it, you can do it. How tall am I? Strawberry Hero is asking, Says, I always thought you were super tall, but I saw an Instagram photo with you next to your door, and now I'm not sure. Next to my door, like next to a bedroom door? I'm not sure what you're referring to. I am 5'7". 5'7", so not like crazy tall, but I'm like tall-ish. I'm like, I would say above average for a female, but not by a lot. Medium tall. Question, where did I get this apron? This apron, actually there's a link in my description. This was a sponsored item. Here, I'll show it. This was from Coda Organics, and so there is a link. I have a referral link, in fact, so if you want to buy a custom apron, I get a kickback from that. They're a really cool company. The fabric is really, really nice. It's heavy, high quality. It's got real leather on it in areas, and it's customized. So I think it's pretty neat, and I just don't have a lot of opportunities to wear it. Referring to my Zero Suit Samus. Oh, yeah, I'm extra tall as Samus because I wear 5-inch heels. Oh, I was gonna label these. This one is part A. And B. Those are labeled for my convenience. It's a little bit more useful when you're making multiple pours. I think I'm just doing one here, but we'll see if I mess it up or not. I shouldn't measure like an exact amount for how much I think I'll need, but I'm just gonna wing it. This is small amounts, so I don't think I'm missing out on too much. The taller the heel, the easier it is to crush enemies under your boot. That's my theory.
I don't know. Can't say I've given that much thought.
Oh, cool. Looking at the chat while I'm pouring this. Try not to get too distracted. I'm gonna do 150 milliliters of each. I'm just looking at this measuring cup. So that will be like, when I pour this together, it will be about 1 full cup of this, which I think is a good amount to mix up to cover my piece. Realistically, I only need enough to just cover the piece. It doesn't have to be like as deep as the mold walls that I built up around it, but I think this is a safe estimate. We'll see. I'm gonna let that little stick live in there because it's now touching. So the idea is I want to keep these separate until I'm ready to mix them, and that includes like my mixing utensils and all of that. And then pour it together. How tall is Jared? I forget. I think he's like 6 feet-ish. He might be like an inch below that or something, or an inch above that. He's right about 6 feet. Okay, this is part B. Once again, I'm going to cut a pour spout and a vent hole. These are available in much larger sizes, but I hardly work with resin or silicone, so I generally just get little kits at a time because it's all I need, and it has a very limited shelf life. Like, for most of these types of products, it's like 6 months. If you don't use it within that amount of time, then you have to buy a fresh kit. Hey, Komishika, thank you for the $5 tip. Appreciate you. Yeah. Hell yeah, kicking off the stream. Divinicare is asking me, so I found your cosplay stuff rather recently and I really like it. Thank you. How do you decide who to cosplay regularly? Well, I have a long list at this point of characters that I want to ideally cosplay someday. And it kind of just depends on like what events are coming up next, whether I have motivation to cosplay from a certain thing, like whether it's a series is becoming relevant because a new installment is coming out, or I have friends that want to cosplay from a certain series together, and so I get motivated to do that. So really, like, just the order I choose to make things in just kind of comes down to like what I'm feeling at the time. And yeah, I try to limit myself to only working on like one major project at a time, and then maybe doing like small side projects, just so that I stay a little bit more focused because I have too many ideas. So right now everything is Arwen, and I'm going to keep working on Arwen until Arwen is finished, but I'm hoping with that being my big project for this month that it'll be finished by the end of the month or next. That's my goal anyway. We'll see. I don't know how much I'll do on stream, but quite a bit. Okay, I'm trying to slow my roll here as I'm pouring because I don't want to over pour. And it pours out so slowly you kind of like have to watch it and stop pouring in advance because it takes so long for that last amount of liquid to like trickle down into the cup. I need to get just a tiny bit over my mark to match the other one. Do I watch anime and play any games? Yes to both. If you check out my website, it'll show you like what my costume gallery, I guess, if you want to see like older costumes. But I generally cosplay things that I play and watch. Like, you know, I don't want to cosplay from something that I don't know anything about. But it also kind of varies. Sometimes I'm cosplaying because it's fun and because friends wanted to do it. But generally speaking, I just choose for myself. Alright, so there's part B. And I can go ahead and close the lids on these. Is it still? Yes. This is some sweet lo-fi music, and it is still Radio Cutman. So just search on YouTube Radio Cutman if you want to listen to this in your own time. Oh no, that's totally fine, Divinicator. I liked having something to talk about, so don't worry. Okay. Realistically, I probably don't even need a third cup. It's all gonna fit in one cup, and if I decide I need to do a second pour, I can just redo this. So like technically speaking, it's really a better idea to pour both into a third cup because you lose a little during the transfer. But I don't want to waste another cup considering that the measurement is not required to be like super exact. It'll totally mix up just fine. And because this isn't the resin itself, this is the silicone, and I'm just trying to do it quickly. So I feel confident that this is going to mix up beautifully. So I'm just going to go ahead and pour one into the other. This one also has barely, slightly, a little bit more in it, so I think it'll be pretty even when I finish pouring it. Anyway, whatever. All that is to say, if you're trying to learn a lot about prop making, number one, don't try to learn it from me. And number two, yeah, you've come to the wrong place. Do as I say, but not as I do, and also just go listen to somebody else. So I have a pretty decent amount of working time with this. With the resin that I'm going to be using, it's got a really short pot life, which means it's not going to last very long in the cup before it needs to be poured and will start curing. But the silicone is a little bit more forgiving. Okay. That's sufficient. Hello, Synchraphy, and yes, Divinicator. That's Dr. Cantrez said, questions are how we learn, and that's true. I never mind talking about my cosplay and stuff during the streams. That's kind of what I'm here for, is to chat with you guys. So don't feel bad about asking. It's just, you know, my thoughts are also very scattered. Hello, Atlantean Angel. Welcome. Can hardly talk. So my goal here is to mix it until it's a pretty consistent color. They were two colors when I started. One of them is like a blue and one of them is like a creamy white. That's the other advantage of mixing them into a third cup, is that it kind of starts the mix off better. You want to scrape the walls and the bottom of the cup to make sure that everything is getting mixed in. But silicone, like this silicone at least, is very forgiving in terms of like being a perfect ratio and all of that. Atlantean Angel's like, so what are we doing? We're making a mold. This is liquid rubber in my cup right now that I'm mixing up. And I created this cute little Lego wall. Can Aries reach into the high windows behind me, like up there? No. There's not enough for him to jump on, at least that's sturdy enough to support his weight. So he can't get up there. Alright, I think this is pretty well mixed. Definitely, at least for our purposes. So now I'm going to be pouring it, and I just realized it's going to be hard for me to pour it directly under the camera because I want to do something in particular. Okay, this is not bad actually. I know that it's like partly off. Okay, there it's on camera. My wall, the ceiling above this extends out. Basically, I'll just show you what I'm doing. I'm gonna pour it, but I'm not gonna pour it from down here. I'm gonna pour it up higher. And the idea is that that forces the silicone into like a tiny little drip. And as that's coming down, it kind of releases any gases or air that's trapped inside the liquid rubber. So, start off a little bit lower. There we go. So I have a really tiny stream. Coming out. So I want to let the rubber just run all over the surface of the item and kind of fill the holes naturally on its own. Rather than like moving this all around, I'm just gonna pour it really slowly and just let it fill up the gaps. And I'm actually going to, I'm like paranoid about this being mixed well enough because the cup was full and it's really thick. So I'm just gonna keep mixing really quickly. This is just me being like extra thorough though. Hi J.A. Pinkerton. Okay, yeah, that's very thoroughly mixed. I'm just being paranoid. I have plenty of working time, so I'm not like in a huge rush to get this poured. I would rather make sure I didn't botch the mixing process. This is like just super bare bones, like mold making. This is like me working with some of the cheapest stuff in like the smallest kits with no extra bells or whistles. There's a lot more you can do for like more advanced stuff and to help kind of like prevent complications, but I wouldn't say that's necessary for us in this project. Okay. Once again, resume pouring. It's so interesting to watch it just like ooze all over the item and it just starts to disappear. I like hit the ceiling with my little thing. I'm gonna turn this. Oops. Well, see, that's what I was trying to avoid. I also want to make sure that my board stays completely flat because I want my silicone to like level out. Oh, that was too much. It was a big glob. That's okay though, because it's gonna be like in the bottom. Oh man, I think this stuff is just like starting to cure a little bit too quickly. All right, pour faster. That's better. It's like getting more momentum now. It'll finish leveling out. Alright, I guess I shouldn't have taken my sweet time. Ooh, do I trust it? Yeah, that's fine. But yeah, this is just curing! Alright, I didn't have as much pot time as I thought. However, I think it'll be fine because it got most of the detail already. I'm just trying to avoid dropping clumps onto what's already there. And otherwise, I just need to chill and let this level out on its own as much as it can. I'm gonna help it by kind of going over the surface. All right, and from there it's just gonna self-level as much as it can. And that's about it. That's all I have to do, besides, you know, hope I didn't fuck this up. But I have enough to do another one if I need to. So sometimes that happens too. Otherwise, I'm just gonna let this chill and hopefully become a nice, useful mold. Now I wish the back were flatter, which is my fault because I took too long to pour it out. If I had poured it a little bit faster or a little bit sooner, it would be smoother on the back, which would be useful for casting, but as it is, it's not really a problem. At least I hope not. And yes, now it really is just waiting. Now we get to watch this silicone cure. Oh, hey, As Your Props is here. She's a far better prop maker than I am. It's crazy to watch silicone cure that fast, she says. I don't think I've ever used anything with such a short pot life. Yeah, I forget exactly how fast this is, which is why it got kind of jelly there in the end. But I think it'll be okay because it already got to all of the detail areas except for like one little tiny corner. So as long as I don't have like a bunch of air bubbles on it or something, I think it'll be fine. And I can always like mess with the final cast if I need to. Let's take a look at the time. It is 7:35. By 8 p.m. I should be able to demold this. We'll see. No swirling so far. Is the clay reusable afterward? Yes. The clay is gonna stay soft forever. I did spray it with like some clear gloss. It's like an acrylic spray paint. And so that is now a part of the clay, and so it's kind of contaminated with that a little bit, but I can still totally reuse it if I want to. Yeah, I was hoping that this would level out a little bit and give us more of a flat back, but you know what we can do? Is we can just mix up more and give it a flat back that way. I think I'm going to. It's kind of a bummer that I didn't just do it better the first time, but whatever. You guys know that I mess up all the time. So one of the nice things about silicone is that you can always just keep adding more silicone to it. I don't know if it's limited by type. It might be, but as far as I'm aware, I've like mixed silicones before too. Here we go. I'm just gonna reuse the same cup. Also, I'll be able to reuse these. I can wash them out and just like fill it up again. So we're starting with part A because that was what was already in this cup. Once again, I'm like being bad and just using my mixing or my measuring cup for mixing, but whatever. So I only need a little bit for this venture. So I'm just gonna fill it up to like the smallest mark. So I don't need to add more silicone to this for the sake of like adding silicone. The reason why I'm adding more to it is so that it will hopefully be totally flat on the top, which will become the bottom when I flip it over. And so that will be useful for during the casting portion of this, more so than necessary for the molding. So yeah, let's just fill this bad boy up, make it really thick. Yeah, it's so it will be level. Dr. Cantraz is asking if it's level. It's like pretty close to being level, but it's not as satisfying as I would like it to be. But yeah, that's the goal, is to make it level. Yeah, I forgot how really fast this pot life is. I should have just checked the numbers and set a timer. Because I often will work with a timer, at least just like on my phone, so I know exactly how long I have before it starts to cure. But I didn't do that this time. I was getting cocky because I was just like, oh, I've used these materials a bunch now. I'm sure it'll be fine. And that's when you make mistakes, is when you're just like taking for granted that you know how to do it. All right, part B. So this is not epoxy divinicator. Epoxy is a term that describes a number of types of resins. This is silicone. I want to say this kit was like somewhere between $20 and $30. Both of them are around that same price, and I forget the exact price of it, but it's something like that. So it's not cheap when you have to get a bunch, or yeah, a bunch of it really. But it's not prohibitively expensive, especially if you have a lot of plans of what to do with it. Okay, this one I'm pouring faster because I'm just mixing them straight into each other like an asshole. Whatever. I never claimed I was good at this. I just said that I would do it in front of you. And now knowing how quickly it's gonna cure, I'm not messing around. It should be a lot easier to mix. I think the last time I was just like, oh, I should double check that it's well mixed, and I've slowed down when I should not have. All right. That's enough of that. I'll mix it super fast and then pour it. And it's okay if this has air bubbles because none of it's touching the actual object. You want to avoid air bubbles as much as possible on like the surface of the object of whatever you're making a mold of, because air bubbles will interfere with the shape. When you're casting it, it'll have like lumps or missing parts or whatever. YOLO, that's right, says as your props. No one else is here to witness my shame, except for you, I guess. Alright. And that is pretty well mixed. So because we've already got our like detail layer of where it's actually connecting to, or where it's touching the object, I'm more concerned with pouring this quickly and making sure there's a smooth covering across all the areas, as opposed to last time where I wanted it to run slowly over the object. This time I'm just like, whatever. just fill in all of the weird gaps. And then I'm gonna let it settle on its own. And I don't need to like use my little stick to persuade it or anything like that. I guess this did prolong our cure time a little bit now because I've got to like reset the clock in terms of that. It's 7:42 right now as I pour this. Now it'll take a little bit longer for everything to be ready. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and toss my measuring or my mixing sticks because I don't need those anymore. I managed to not make a huge mess across everything, which is nice. And this is now flat. You can see the tiny little air bubbles in the surface, especially as I move it around. You can also see them popping on their own. Atlantean Angel asked, why are we putting more on? We're putting more on just to make the back flat and level, because that'll be better for us when we're casting in the end. Since my first pour wasn't fast enough and it got like congealed, this now is nice and smooth, and so it'll be flat, and when I pull it out, the top will become the back. This will flip it over. Plus it looks nicer, that's right. That's the correct answer. We're making it prettier. And now we pretty much just wait, so let's do a fun activity or something. Let's see. It is 7:44. I'm thinking that I can take this out. Well, I'll give it a experimental touch at like 8:10 or so. I got lazy during the first pour. No, I didn't. I just took too long. It's fine. It's fine. If you're watching the camera, you can see those little tiny bubbles popping and the like little white spots disappear. I don't know, maybe I'm just like too bored if I'm like, this is visually interesting to me. Overcautious. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Cantros, having my back. I agree, I wasn't lazy, I was overcautious. So this is, the silicone mold is the term. So the mold is the negative image, I guess. And then I'll fill it with resin. I'm like afraid that I'll say the wrong words and then be corrected by a more experienced prop maker than myself. But yes, this is a silicone mold, and when I pour it out, or when I, not pour it, after it cures, it'll be hard within like 40-ish minutes. Then I will have like a negative impression of the object that I sculpted, which is a buckle for us here today. And then I'll pour resin into that cavity and then create a perfect copy of the sculpt in hard plastic. I guess I can talk a little bit about my next steps for this project. I went out and got some of the actual aluminum metal powder. So this is for a process called cold casting, where you're basically gonna dust the inside of the mold with this, and then when the resin comes out, it'll have a fine layer of this covering the plastic. So it will be plastic covered in real metal, at least like metal powder. And so it will have this like metal shiny surface to it, I hope, if I do it properly. You can polish. I've done that type of process before, but only with fake metal, like fake metal powder that looks like metal but isn't actually. And this is the real deal. It's made out of little tiny metal shavings of aluminum. And so the difference is that I'll be able to polish it and make it look better and shinier afterward, because it's actual metal, and then we can do that. Is the silicone food safe? No, it's not. Well, I don't know. You'd have to check. I would assume not, because generally this stuff is more expensive, and I know for sure that the resin is not. But I would recommend just doing research if you're trying to make something that's food safe, like if you're trying to make chocolate molds or something. This is our measuring cup from the first one, which is still too moist. No, it's not. This is from the second one. This is from the first one, and it's like congealed in such a way that... Yeah, these cups are super easy to clean. At least with silicone. I don't know if it's going to cure properly at the very bottom, but this all cured in one chunk. So this is what our mold is going to be like, more or less. This is a little bit sticky still, maybe because it wasn't perfectly mixed at the very, very bottom, or maybe just because it hasn't had enough time, because it hasn't reached like the full time yet. But that's how quickly it works. And this is like really shiny and smooth because that's what the interior of the cup is. So it's really, really great for picking up textures and impressions. That was weird. And now my hands are sticky and gross because I've got like some uncured silicone. Divinicator says, is your hair naturally that red? My cousin's is that color too. We have a lot of Irish and Scottish in us. Yes, this is my natural hair. It kind of looks different in different lighting. I think this lighting right now is kind of yellowy, but it is red hair. It is real red. Petey McGuire asked, where did you learn the majority of information you know regarding cosplay? I really appreciate you sharing so much knowledge with the rest of us. Well, thank you. For the first couple years, I was self-taught. After that, I started going to school for theater. And after that, I got an internship in Atlanta with God Save the Queen Fashions, who is a cosplay fabricator who like makes costumes for clients. And so I've worked with some people who are more professional than I am and learned a lot from them. But ultimately, like what I really know is kind of a hodgepodge of things I've learned in school, things I've learned from better craftspeople, and things I've learned from internet tutorials. And so that's pretty much what I know. I would say that the majority of the basis of the information I have that I know just like came from the internet, but a lot of the more advanced stuff came from working with other artists. Did our music stop? It shouldn't have. Oh no, the stream stopped, did it? I'm refreshing. Okay, I don't know why that just happened. It said this video is unavailable and I refreshed the page. So okay, our tasty jams are back. All right, there we go. We got the tasty jams back. Yeah, that was the music stream stopped, not my stream personally. Let's see, it's 7:50. It's still gonna be like 20 minutes before I can mess with this. I'm glad it has a nice flat back though. Dr. Cantrell said earlier that they always get the terms mold and cast flipped around. Yeah, people use them incorrectly a lot. So I try to, you know, correct the incorrect terminology, but I don't always have all of the proper terms for every little thing. Oh yeah, and Azure Props also said that they have food-safe silicone at Smooth-On, which is a company, Smooth-On is the company that makes these products. Reynolds Advanced Materials is the place where you buy it, or you can just order it online from various sources. Have I played Final Fantasy 15? No, I haven't. I should. I've played a lot of the earlier Final Fantasy games, but I haven't been as interested in the later ones. 13 really broke my heart after I waited for it for so long. I was really excited, and then it sucked. Oh well. Sar Diego saying that they are having a stressful night and the chill stream is really helping me stay calm. Thank you. I'm glad to hear that, Sar Diego. Welcome to our stream where we're hanging out, literally watching Silicone Cure, but it should be done in like 20 minutes or something. Oh yeah, that's where I was. I was gonna talk about what else I'm working on next. I showed off my metal powder, and then the resin that we're using is Smooth Cast Onyx Fast. They have both this silicone and this resin come in both a fast and slow version. It's literally referring to, you know, how quickly the work time is. Hey World of Gwendana, welcome. Welcome to our chill stream. We're just watching this rubber cure now. But anyway, I got the fast versions of both because I like it to go fast. And because this is just something simple and small, and so I didn't really need the extra work time. But yeah, at this point, we have to wait for this to be done. I was kind of thinking that I would do my cast on Saturday, but now that I'm thinking about it, I just don't think it will take that much time. If we're already going to be waiting for this mold to be ready, then I might be able to just do the whole thing tonight, which would be really cool. Synchraphy is looking for contacts. I know Uniqueso and TTDI are some of the ones that I've gone through. But yeah. Otherwise, we're just hanging out. Oh, so this plastic resin that I bought is black. Like, the color is black. So the nice thing about that is that I don't have to worry about pigmenting it or it looking bright or whatever. Because it's available in different colors, like different types of resin or different colors. For cold casting, which is what we're doing, it's a good idea to use the black resin because it, like, if the metal gets scratched off of it or something, it has like the dark color underneath. It's usually better that way. So Synchraphy, Uniqueso does offer separate powers for left eye and right eye, but not on every single lens. That comes down to the manufacturer. And so there are times when I go through Uniqueso where, depending on how badly I want that pair of lenses, sometimes I'll have to order 2 sets, one for each prescription, because mine are that way too. But if you find the right item, then it does allow you to switch to select multiple prescriptions. So it might still be a good source if you just have to do a little more digging. Anyway, yeah. That's all we're up to today. If anybody has any more questions, I can answer those for you guys tonight. Talk about lightning cosplay from Final Fantasy 13. I've thought about cosplaying as various characters from that game, but I just didn't, I don't know, I didn't like it enough. What kind of questions? I mean, whatever you want to know. We can talk about all kinds of cosplay things. I guess anything that's generally cosplay or crafting related, or that's relevant to me, but it's just kind of whatever you are curious about. But yeah, I considered cosplaying Vanille from 13, especially like more recently after that game came out, but hey! Volt donated $50! Wow, thank you so much! Saying, watching you cast is bringing back memories of being in art classes during college. Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much for that that tip. I really appreciate that. Heck yes, thanks dude. Yeah, I recently opened a Ko-fi account, which is a pretty popular service for like supporting artists and creators online. So I've been trying to raise funds specifically for making photo sets. And that's really what I'm basically. Everything that comes from Twitch donations also goes to that, or the cosplay supplies themselves. But anyway, just to like my general work expenses. But currently, what I am working on right now, aside from Arwen that I'm doing on stream, is to build the different types of photo sets that, like the one right now I'm working on is the flower wall, and then from there I want to create more types of scenery like fake castle walls and like fake stone and pillars and those types of things, just to have for studio photo sets. So that's kind of my big undertaking for 2018. Get better at photography, which is what I've already been working on for the last couple months, and now have more resources for shooting photography indoors, because For those of you who don't know, I live in Washington State and it rains here a lot. And so depending on the time of year and what the weather is like, you can't shoot cosplay photos outside for like months at a time. So it makes it really difficult to go and make use of the beautiful environments here. And so my goal is to create ways to do the most difficult and involved shoots at home, because it's really, really hard to put on like a full set of armor and then go drive out into the woods somewhere and have to wear your costume around. It's pretty excruciating, in fact. So anyway, those are my major goals for the year, and I just wanted to update you guys because I've been thinking about them a lot and working toward them every day. And it's been awesome. So thank you all for your support, both for coming to the streams and for those of you who have contributed toward the coffee goal or anything like that, because it's all enabling me to do this and do more of it and share what I'm doing, and hopefully you guys are getting something valuable out of that, more so than just like watching me run around in costume. Okay, back to answering questions because that rambled for so long. How many Final Fantasy IX characters are in my cosplay list? At least Garnet. Garnet is on my list. I don't know if I'll get to it this year, but that's one that's kind of at the top of the list. Any advice for someone using foam for armor for the first time? My advice to you is to go to Evil Ted's YouTube channel. Do a YouTube search for Evil Ted, and he is a foam master. You can also look up Punished Props. They have tons and tons of foam smith resources. And so those are like two of the big foam experts in cosplay. So I recommend going to them for resources because you can find all of the best information right there. Space Guy Lewis asked, any tips for a first-time fabric dyer? Got to do some dye work for school. I'm a wee bit nervous about it. I would say add a tiny bit of dye at a time. Don't dump a bunch in there, and that way you can do test strips and test to see how the color is going to come out. And also just make sure that you're using the right type of dye for your fabric, because different fabrics require different dyes. So I would just make sure that you read your packaging and make sure that those line up. What did Dominicator ask? Oh, do a gender bend snow? Probably not. Thanks though. Dual Voltage said, love seeing you work, and since I support Jared, I figured I should start supporting you too. Well, thank you so much. I mean, I'm glad that you enjoy the work. You don't have to be obligated just because of Jared, but I'm always happy to have more people here. Okay, Firebite, I'm trying to understand your question. Any advice for someone using foam armor for the first time? Okay, and then I've always have a basic idea, but I'm gonna be layering over satin, and I don't know if I need to have felt or something underward so it doesn't slip. I'm not sure what your question is exactly. If you can rephrase that, I might have a better idea of how to answer that. Oh man, as your props, yeah, we should plan some Final Fantasy IX sometime. That would be fun. If I could have an instant cosplay of anyone, who would it be? I mean, I guess anyone who's already on my cosplay list. You mean just like that I wouldn't have to make it, it would just exist? That's a good question. A Link costume, because I have a lot of ideas for different Link costumes and I'm just like, oh, it's so much work. Probably Zora Link, because that was one of the ones that's on my list. I almost made that for Katsucon and I backed out because I thought I wouldn't have time, and I chose to do Winter Zelda instead because I knew I could finish it in the time that I had. Yeah. That mold color is Pro Jared Blue. Hey! Thank you, Dual Voltage, for the subscription. Appreciate you. Okay. So Firebite was talking to Divinicator. Alright, well good luck with your stage transformation. That sounds fun. I always like seeing those types of costumes. Favorite Star Wars character so far, like of all Star Wars? I mean, I love Luke. Luke is always my boy. Otherwise, like from the current trilogy, I do really like Rey. I think she's interesting because we see her like learning and making decisions, and like she doesn't have a preconceived notion of like who she is or where she wants to go or what she wants to do. So like versus Luke, who had a mission and then finds out that Vader's his father and then finds out that he's like entrenched and that he's responsible for, or not necessarily responsible, but that he feels responsible for resolving this like decades-long drama. Versus Rey, who doesn't have that kind of significant tie to the plot overall, and we kind of just don't know where she's going to go from there, or from here. So yeah, that's why I find her interesting at this point in the story. Winter Zelda turned out really good. Thank you, Dr. Cantras. I appreciate that. I worked hard on that one. Crystal Fear is asking, have I ever done any embroidery? I've done small amounts of embroidery. I did an embroidery stream featuring one of my friends who is an embroidery expert who just like has a really awesome fancy embroidery machine and does it professionally. And she came in and taught me how to do really small basic embroideries on my sewing machine, so like making little patches. And we did that on stream, so that was kind of like with her instruction. I've also done small amounts of hand embroidery on my own. The Zelda costume, sorry, the Twilight Princess Zelda costume had hand embroidery all along, like the neckline and then the edges of the purple overlay on the dress. It was all hand embroidered, so I did a little bit of that. Hylian Violinist is asking, what silicone do we use for the mold? We used this Mold Star 16 Fast. It's a platinum silicone rubber, which is just like a type of, I mean, I guess it refers to what's in it. Yeah, just checking in on everybody here in the chat. Yes, Crystal Fear is asking, oh nice, was that Kayatri? I have a hair in my mouth. Yes, that was her. That was my friend Patricia Kayatri, who is the embroidery expert. Oh, that's nice that you're watching her other streams. She started streaming within the last year. It was like, I guess I was there for her first stream, which was after the embroidery stream. But yeah, she started streaming regularly on her own now, and she does a lot of embroidery and sewing streams. It's pretty good. Cute apron, says Penguin Cosplay. Thank you. I have my fancy apron. It has my fancy name on it, thanks to Coda Organics, and they are linked below in my description, showing like where you can buy your own customized apron. And they did sponsor this, so just FYI, full disclosure, this is my sponsored apron, but I really, really like it. Like it's genuinely really nice, so I have zero qualms about promoting them because this is a really sweet apron. It's only 8 where I'm at. Yes, it is 8:05 right now. It's 10 o'clock here. Where are you? Where in the world are you guys? That's always an interesting conversation. Gotta please the FTC. That's right. Full disclosure. I was sent this for free, but it's super worth it. Oh, East Coast, it's 11 p.m. right now. I guess Central Time, it's 10 p.m. That's cool. Dual Voltage is asking, or saying, I want to get into cosplay, so seeing your work is always super inspiring. Thank you. Dual Voltage also is asking, out of curiosity, where did you get your casting supplies? We have Reynolds Advanced Materials near me. Yes, that's exactly where I went. There's one in the Seattle area, but it's not very close to me, so I'm probably going to end up ordering online in the future. But they do have them in a lot of major cities, so if you're at least in the United States, there's chances you might be able to get to one nearby, depending on where you live. Man, some people are from all over the place. It's 4 a.m. from the Isle of Man in the UK. Wow. I'm gonna be going to the UK this summer for the first time, and I'm really excited. So I'm gonna be there for CoxCon, and I want to try to do some kind of location photo shoot while I'm there. Like, I have to try to do something, but I don't know what yet. So if you guys have ideas, you can let me know. Yes. Oh, okay, yes. I've been to the Reynolds in Dallas because I used to live in Dallas for many years. Dual Voltage. I did not know you were also in Dallas. But yeah. Okay, this little guy right here on the edge is totally cured. And that's just a tiny piece, so that bodes well. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes and then see about demolding this. I want to just be like really thorough because I've already messed up a little. Well, okay, I'm gonna give it a little bit more time just because I'm nervous, but that should be totally fine. Also, the bottom part of this is was poured first, and so it should be even more, you know, farther along in the curing process, so it should be good. Dire Desires is like, what the hell, your silicone sets that fast? Yes, it's this is the fast silicone, which is why it like started curing and getting slow as I was pouring it out of the cup because I went too long. But yeah, it should be like, I mean, it's pretty much ready to go. I'm just scared. I'm gonna give it a couple more minutes out of like thoroughness, but technically we are ready to demold. We got people from all over. Montana, Kentucky, upstate New York, Illinois. That's awesome. Do a Temple of Time shoot? That would be sweet. Alright, I'm just gonna go for it. I don't need to wait. There's no additional benefit to waiting. But look, I'm about to peel it off, and all of that liquid we poured in is now a solid chunk of rubber. Yeah, if all of the thinnest areas are already done, then that means it is good to go. See, these are coming off totally clean. So aside from the ones that have glue on them, which is still really not a problem, the Legos, no Legos were harmed during the making of this mold. They are totally fine, and they come out in the same condition that they went in. Although a few of them have little bits of silicone clinging to them. It's really easy to peel off, like you've seen, because it's just rubber that doesn't like to stick to stuff, which is why it's good for making molds. And I'm totally organizing these by color. Because that's the kind of girl that I am. The final reveal? I hope so, man. I hope so. So I guess with it not, I haven't even been streaming that long. I guess my goal is, first of all, checking out this mold. If this mold came out, then I will cast the final piece right here, right now. The only problem with that is that I'm not going to wait and demold that one. Like, if I pour the resin in, I'm gonna let it sit overnight before I take it out. That's not entirely necessary because the resin also cures really quickly, but it reaches like a soft cure really quickly, and the longer I leave it in the mold, like the more solid it will be since the pieces are going to be really thin. So basically what I'm saying is, if this mold is good and we peel it off and it looks, I'm happy with it and it doesn't need to be like remade, then I will pour resin into it tonight, and then that will be the end of the stream. And then you'll see the results on Instagram or wherever later on. So everybody wish me luck as I just painstakingly remove all of these Legos. But yeah, the silicone runs between the Legos a little bit, but hardly any. It doesn't like seep out the edges or anything, so. You were a K'NEX kid? I also had K'NEX. K'NEX were the jam. Oh, Whalefax is here. Hello, Whalefax. Welcome. Yeah, so peeling some of these off the hot glue under there. But that peels off pretty easily too. It's low temp hot glue, as we said. It's not extremely secure anyway. Alright, you know what? I'm just gonna cut to the chase. I can finish color coordinating my Legos on my own time. I'm not gonna make you guys wait anymore. Alright, so we have now peeled off all of these extraneous walls, and now it's time to peel off our mold. It's stuck on there well enough, but yeah, it just peels straight off. Hey! That seems like it worked really well. There's a few areas where it like seeped underneath. That's not gonna be a problem at all. I might trim those up. And this also came out perfectly. So this did not appear to be damaged at all by the process. There's a little bit, oh, that's fine. Anyway, I'm gonna set this aside and not mess with it. Yay! Everyone's celebrating. I'm glad, I'm glad. Thank you all. I need all the support I can get. Oh, and I'm working outside my comfort zone. I'm looking for tiny snips. Let me grab some of those. I'm just gonna like cut really, really tiny pieces off of this, but that shouldn't really make much of a difference. Boom! Hell of a mold, that's right. There it is. Oh, you guys are so kind to me. Thank you all for being here and making this moment even more exciting when something works out. So there's like tiny little overhanging pieces that are just not necessary. I'm just snipping them off so they don't get in the way. Yeah, this is like optional-ish. So I'm just doing the tiniest bit of cleanup here. It is very easy to cut through silicone, like, or at least this silicone, I don't know about all of them, but lots of silicones. Very, very easy to cut through. You can use like an X-Acto knife or a little pair of scissors. So I'm just cutting off those like little unnecessary overhanging areas. Oh, here it was. Hey, Dragon Kitty Warrior, thank you for subscribing. Alright, I have exactly one of these cups ready that is already clean. Otherwise, I'll have to wash some out, which is fine. I'm gonna clear the area of Legos that we don't need. Oh, and the other thing I'm going to do is cut on the back side any like of the pieces that are sticking up so that it lays flat. That's the other idea. So this was the benefit of doing that second pour, creating the flat back, because that's what it's going to lay on. So that was just my own fault for being a little bit sloppy with the first pour. Now I'm just going to trim up the edges. I love this song. I love this whole station, which is why I listen to it all the time. Alright, that's all the pertinent pieces. This is flat now. I'm gonna, oops, a little chunk in there. Oh, so we are going to be using this metal powder that I talked about. And so I'm laying this down. And I'm turning this upside down because feel like my table isn't totally flat. Maybe I'm just imagining things, but I have it oriented into a position that I feel like is more flat now. So that might just be my imagination, but I'm doing my best here. All right, so these are the two parts of the resin, but before I get to that, I'm gonna use the powder first. All right, aluminum powder. I was gonna get like a paper mask because you wanna be careful about and not inhaling this, but I guess I'll just be really careful. And I need a brush. I wish I had like a cheaper, crappier brush, but I don't. I used them. Oh, it's kind of stiff. Might be this fan brush, just because it'll get into more areas. We'll try this. Alright, so I'm gonna be really, really careful not to breathe too close to this. No snorting, that's right. There it is, there's the aluminum powder. You can see how shiny it is. So all I'm gonna do is pick up a little bit on my brush and dust the inside of this mold with it. Oh, there's a bubble that's gonna have to get sanded off. Yeah, I'm gonna need a smaller brush. This fan brush is good for distributing it. I want to be careful about not using too much. Let me just dust it in there and start to spread it out. I wish I had a better like soft brush, but I just don't know. So I'm trying to be a little bit systematic to make sure that it covers all of the surfaces, at least all the like side walls and stuff of the mold. Anyway, this is forgive me for being a little bit absorbed by my work for right now. I'm going to try to get this done quickly without talking too much. Dang, I'm like getting ahead of schedule by doing all of this in one night. I was just thinking, I was originally planning to do this on my Saturday stream, but now I have to find something else. Sorry guys, there's just so many little nooks and crannies in this, and I'm trying to be as thorough as possible because it will affect the results. So I definitely see a few bubbles here and there, but I don't think they're gonna mess us up in terms of still creating a nice quality cast. All right. I'm just trying to look at this from various angles and make sure I got everywhere I needed to. The last thing is just tapping out the excess. Okay, what did I miss here in the chat? Slap a paper towel over my nose and mouth? I should have. It's fine. I didn't die. Okay, everyone is helping each other answer those questions. So I tapped out any sort of excess powder. I'm using my fluffier fan brush to just kind of like leaning away. Come on, refocus. There we go. All right, that's fine. The idea is you just don't want like tons of extra powder just sitting in there that might affect it, the resin capturing all the detail. All right, setting those aside. And now our last task is to fill this bad boy with resin. I'm gonna grab 2 fresh gloves. Divinicator says, it's astounding to see this level of detail going into this little piece. Very inspiring. Well, thank you. I hope so. You know, I do my best. Once again, I am just cutting a little spout and a vent hole. You can peel the whole lid off, but I just find this makes a little bit less of a mess. Slightly. So this is not going to need very much volume. I'm just going to fill it up to this lowest line here, which is still probably way too much resin, but it will. It's like the smallest amount that I can accurately pour from these cups anyway. I should have got smaller cups, but this is what I have. All right, and now this one does have a very short pot life. I have very little time to mix this resin. So once I start, I'm gonna be as fast as I possibly can. And this is the part that's black. Did my YouTube stream go out again? I know that this stream is still streaming, but what I'm listening to is also a stream, and I think that just cut out a little bit. I did not see your request to post a link. I'm sorry. While I'm in the middle of this, I don't have the ability to permit you. Yeah, there's the music back. And I don't know that we have a mod here. Sorry about that. Normally I would be like, yes, but... Do I have any plans to sell casts of this? Maybe. We'll see. I have to get my store up and running again before I can even really consider that. And then I guess it really depends on the demand. I might like have 1 or 2 listed and then just see if people want them. Alright, I'm going to go ahead and pour, and once I start pouring, I'm going to pour directly into the same cup. Mix it really quickly. Got mixing sticks ready. And then... pouring it in here, and then after I do that, I'll sit and chat with you guys for a few more minutes, but that'll basically be the end of our work for tonight. All right, here we go. All right, that's way too much. It's overkill, but it's as much as I needed to get my correct 1-to-1 ratio. Alright, so this stuff, this we mix quickly! The convenient thing is that it's super runny, so it doesn't get air bubbles in the same way that the silicone does. And you can feel it heating up in your hand. It starts to get real warm. And that's where you're like, oh, I'm done mixing, time to pour. I'm gonna do that same pouring technique that I talked about before. So I might make a bit of a mess here. I'm trying not to totally overfill it, but I want to make sure I get into the little crannies. There we go. I think that's actually pretty good. And I can always sand the back to flatten it up a little bit more if I need to. Well, I've got plenty of extra resin in this cup. I'm going to move it a little bit on my desk to try to make sure it's being filled completely. Sorry, the more I pour it or pull it down toward this edge, the more evenly it looks like it fills. I'm going to try turning this around. There we go. Yeah, my desk is like very, very slightly, just barely uneven, I guess. So I just rearranged it to make sure that the back is like as level as possible. And there it is. This needs to cure. It needs to cure for longer than I'm going to keep streaming for. I'm going to leave it in the mold overnight. The actual... Wow, look at that. This is still filled with liquid, except it's no longer liquid. It is... That's how fast it is. This is a solid chunk of resin in here. Now, the weird thing about resin, I think silicone is the same way, is that the thicker areas actually cure more quickly because it's giving off heat. And so the thinner areas, like where it gets spread out on the side, actually takes longer to cure versus like a lot of paints where the thicker areas take longer to cure and the thinner areas are what dries really quickly because it has more exposure to oxygen. It's different with resin. So this is like the thick portion, what's left in the bottom of the cup it's super hot. Like when I touch the side of the cup, it feels really hot to the touch, and it's already solid. So this bad boy here is probably gonna be solid within 20-30 minutes. That's all it takes, but it'll still be like, it'll be solid, but it would be soft when it comes out of the mold. Like soft as in like you can bend it, you can use that to your advantage depending on what you're trying to make. Like when I did Zelda Twilight Princess, the back part of the crown, I sculpted it flat and then I did a mold exactly like this, and then I pulled it out of the mold while it was a soft cure. So it was solid in a solid piece, but I could still bend it. And so I was able to lay it onto my head and bend it around the curve of my head, and it was very soft and easy to work with. And so you can do that. You can do things like that to intentionally get whatever effect you need. But for me, I don't want this to bend. I want it to be as solid as possible because it has like a lot of tiny parts and like the little itty bitty like pieces of clay that are like weaving through each other. I did not miss a corner. It's actually just the layer of silicone went down in here. So this is totally full. Hopefully there's not an air bubble underneath there, but I'm gonna pull it out of the mold and check on it because I can see how it looks like it's not as sharp there. Maybe I'll have to do another cast where I snip the silicone or something if it doesn't look right. But anyway, don't worry about that penguin cosplay. There's nothing else I can do to this right now. This just needs to cure. Bren Rao, thank you so much for subscribing. I do see what you're talking about, and that's beyond my control right now. All I can do is wait for this to cure, pull it out, examine it. If there's an air bubble, maybe I'll need to cut the silicone, maybe I'll need to fill the casting in with something. I don't know, we'll take a look at it, but I didn't miss a corner in the pour, and there's nothing I can do about that corner right now. We'll just see how it goes. Oh, Sunder is here? I'm like missing all of these. There we go. Yes, Sunder is here. Welcome. I'm like so bad at reading people's names. Exothermic reaction. Yes, that is a name for the chemical reaction where it's giving off heat. Vontography subscribes with Twitch Prime. Thank you so much, Vontography. He's another streamer and photographer that I follow that does like cosplay photography, but also just photo editing streams and critique streams, which is really awesome. So nice to have you join us here tonight. And thank you, Penguin Cosplay. I appreciate your attention to detail, but yeah. Hopefully that corner comes out all right. I think what happened was that the sculpt that I made wasn't entirely flat against the sculpting board, and so silicone seeped underneath it, so that's created a pocket where that material isn't missing. Oh no, maybe it's not. Maybe it's just overflowed on the other side. Yeah, I don't even think there's a pocket on the inside. I think it just got filled in too much on the other side, so it looks weird. I'll pull it out of the mold and then I can inspect it and figure out what happened. But yeah, that's about it for me for tonight. I am going to let this chill overnight, take it out of the mold, clean it up a little bit, and then post some finished photos. So check out my Instagram and or Twitter to see how that goes. But otherwise, I'm done for the evening, at least with this, which is really nice. I'm gonna go and relax for a while because I've been working on this stuff all day. Alright, well thank you guys so much for hanging out with me. My next stream will be on Saturday, and I'm not sure what we're doing on Saturday because I thought I was going to cast this on Saturday, but just too fast, too quick and easy. So I hope that this provided some new information for some of you guys about making really simple molds. It's not difficult as long as you are willing to put a little bit of effort and practice in. And hopefully everything will turn out as we need it to. Anyway, I will catch you guys later, and I'll post some kind of update about what we can expect to be doing on Saturday. That should be fun. All right, bye guys.